Hi, Brian. Thank you for joining. Okay, so it is 8:30 Paris time right now. I think just slowly starting. I'm just checking how many of us we are at the moment. I can't see. Hang on, just give me a sec. No, I can't find it here. So I need to try it differently. Hi, Rachel. Thank you for joining again. And so you are two of you for now. Let's wait a bit more until perhaps some others join. Just a few words. So this weekend is a special weekend on Twitch. I do not know if you are familiar with this platform or not. I cannot claim to be familiar as I've been exposed really for 3 weeks only. But Twitch is strictly is a platform for gamers, so people who are streaming games, I mean computer games, and who are sharing their tips and hints with other gamers, or who are playing together with others and communicating through the platform. And I'm saying this because there's something very interesting. This weekend, and this started yesterday at 6 p.m, is the 9th edition of something called in French 𝗬𝗏 with a Z. And this is a charitable marathon. It's organized by two historical streamers, and their names are, so they're both French. The names are Adrien Nougaret and Alexandre Dacary, and their pseudonyms are 𝗬𝗏 and 𝗏𝗃. And both in 2016 launched a charitable event on Twitch, and where gamers would raise money for a charity. And this year it is for helpers, for caretakers, non-medical staff, but people helping family and friends who are hospitalized or whatever. So for the past couple of years, each weekend they could raise about 10 million. When I say each weekend, on each edition, of the event, they could raise about 10 million euros. And this year, of course, the goal is above 10 millions. So for your information, last year it was for it was mainly for charities called Solidarité Paysan, Solidarity to Peasants, Secours Populaire, like a soup kitchen. In 2022 it was Sea Shepherd France, Bird Protection League, plus Time for the Planet, Sea Cleaners. 2021 it was Action Against Hunger. 2020 Amnesty International. 2019 the Pasteur Institute. 2018 Médecins Sans Frontières, so Doctors Without Borders. 2017 French Red Cross. And for the first edition, which was called the Avengers Project in 2016, Save the Children. Interestingly, the first edition raised 170,000 euros, which was quite good for something very, very new and unusual. The second edition managed to raise 450,000 euros, and then there was a big jump with the third edition, 2018, with above 1 million, and 2019, 3.5 million. 2020, above 5 millions, and 2021 around 10 millions. And since 2021, it is around 10 millions. So the goal for this year is 10 millions. So I'm not sure how it is really possible to contribute, probably by joining the event itself or one of the accredited streamers. What is an accredited streamer? Is a streamer whose channel has been existing for long enough, and a streamer with a certain number of followers and average number of viewers. I'm for now far from it, as I'm like a 𝗃𝗏 on this platform, like a 𝗃𝗏, because what I'm streaming is not really related to gaming. It is far from it at this particular juncture. So things might change. We never know. And a question some could ponder is why me? Why here? Why am I streaming on Twitch, or trying to stream on Twitch? I'm trying because I do believe that this model is a very good one. I really love this mindset, which is the open source world, where it is a community where people share tips and hints. There is a form of solidarity, which I've seen. I can witness to that. After my first two streams, I received a few messages on X or Instagram coming from other Twitch members, asking me how things are going and asking me if I need help, if I need what is called a ride. And a ride is when a streamer comes with their viewers to support a channel. So I really like this community spirit. It's a very good one, And for those who know me already, I'm really a big fan of open source. So historically, I was running Ubuntu, so Linux, on my computers, and had to switch to something more human being friendly with Mac, but my heart is still with Linux, and this might explain why I'm here. And also, it is a way of talking to other types of people than those you would see more traditionally on YouTube, or more traditionally on formal webinars, as you might see on LinkedIn or other similar events. So it is a way of reaching younger people, students who are at the intersection of gaming and studying, because both are not incompatible, and you can be more casual and more relaxed in the way you interact with your community. Of course, you pay attention to what you're saying and how you're saying things, but still, it is more relaxed, more casual. I've seen a few people who are streaming, who, let's say, in their public life are pretty cautious as to what they say, how they speak, and here they are much more relaxed, and the language is more colloquial. It looks more natural, more spontaneous. It's something I really like. So for this fourth edition and third entirely in English, just in one language, I want to discuss with you and to answer your question revolving around the catching of a supervisor. So hooking a supervisor or a tutor for your master's thesis or your doctoral dissertation. And this actually means that there are mainly two things that are important to discuss. One is how you contact and address a potential supervisor. And the other is what is a good topic and a good research question. How can you, with those two, convince someone that they will not waste their time supervising your work? This is mainly around those two things that I want to discuss and interact with you. As I remind you that something great on Twitch is that we're not on a lecture model or on a webinar model where the streamer is speaking and then you patiently wait until the end of the stream to ask a few predictable, polite questions. The principle is the opposite. So the streamer is here to share stuff with you and to answer any of your questions or concerns anytime. So the let's say the storyboard I have is just in case interactions are not as strong as I would love them to do and to be. So then I start for now, and of course, should there be any questions, any concerns, any queries or whatsoever, please feel free to interject in the chat, and I will respond quasi instantaneously. Just let me finish with my sentence so I do not forget what I was saying or trying to say. Like I said, important is to be clear with how you can convincingly address a potential supervisor. So what to say or what not to say. Usually it starts with an email. I'm saying usually because there are many other options, but the most traditional way of approaching a potential supervisor is by dropping them an email in which you ask for supervision. Good, but how to say that? As a professor in the past 10 or 15 years, as far as I remember, I have received tens of such emails each year. Tens of emails from students, doctoral students or potential doctoral students asking me to supervise their work. I was warned before by my own supervisors that such emails would be very common. When you start being a wee bit senior in the profession, you start having some visibility and you start being approached by a number of people. I realized this, and what I realized, and I was warned of this, but what I realized is that those emails are too often very generic. It seems that the student sends an email to a number of people. I have no idea how they have selected receivers, but they send the same email saying, I'm contacting you because of your extensive work in research, because of your long experience, because of your great publications, blah, blah, blah. So they're sort of flattering you very, very obsequiously, very visibly, but at the end of the day, you have no idea if they know who you are. And you have no idea if they know what you were doing, on what you've been working, writing, etc. And I can tell as I've received a number of emails for supervision in disciplines or for types of research that are totally at odds with what I'm doing. At odds means that I received a number of emails for supervision in marketing, so a doctoral thesis in marketing. I probably know less of marketing than the student. I'm totally far into marketing. So you are an experienced and senior scholar in marketing, blah, blah. No, I'm not. I'm not, sorry. And then based on this, I cannot say yes. And it's the same for my colleagues who are approached for everything and anything but their real expertise. And I also received a number of emails from students asking for supervision with approaches that are very, very far from mine. That is, my research is qualitative research. It's critical research. It's grounded in critical studies, in management. It is grounded in interdisciplinarity and is widely open to social sciences and humanities. They're central to my work, and I receive emails from students coming with very quantitative, with very mainstream approaches, asking me for supervision because of my expertise in that field. When I see such an email, of course, two possible reactions depending on my mood of the time. Either I'm smiling, thinking, one more, or I'm a bit annoyed, thinking they have not even made the effort of browsing who am I and who I am and what I'm doing. This is a wee bit annoying, a wee bit of a nuisance. So the first thing is this: before you decide to send this email to someone, make sure in the very first place that you have taken some minimal information about the person. Who is this person? On what is this person working? On what is this person writing? What type of research is this person doing? And then think for yourself, how can this fit within my own project? And how can my own project contribute to his or hers? And something I've often seen, and it's also a bit concerning to some extent, is that I have often received emails from students coming from developing countries, which is not a problem in itself, but saying, please supervise me, please host me in your research team. I've got a scholarship, it will not cost you anything. So when you receive such a request from people who do not know, obviously do not know what your work is about, what research you do, you think, well, they're contacting me probably for wrong reasons. They seem to absolutely need the supervision and they do not care about it per se. So either they need an international co-supervisor so they can maintain their scholarship in their home country, or they need to be enrolled in a French university for visa and immigration purposes. In either case, you do not, as a supervisor, you do not have the guarantee that the student applies or contacts you for right academic reasons, and that it will really be possible to work with that student and to do a good supervision. So what happens is that 99% of those emails remain unresponded, unanswered. I do respond to every single email I receive, and when I respond, I explain that they have probably made an error contacting me, that my research is on this and that, and I do not know if I'm nice on colleagues or not, but at least I'm trying to be fair on prospective students. I suggest other people's names, saying, have you tried contacting such and such, whose work is more aligned with what you seem to want to be doing? At times, they respond or they write back saying, oh, thank you very much, blah, blah, blah. But most of the time, my response remains with no answer, which is not a real surprise, though. So, first thing, if you contact in an email, do not contact people at large just because you absolutely need to contact someone. It's not working this way. But also, when you contact people, I have known of some who want the best expert in the world in their field. No one else. Nobody else. Just that one expert. I am not sure that this is a good strategy or a good positioning. For, let's say, a simple reason. The word expert is probably very busy already and is probably often contacted by people and certainly has chosen his or her own students amongst their current student body and do not need external students. And if they are their world's experts, they are bound to be very demanded and not very valuable. So when students of mine really say, I knew the word expert on the topic, I often try to dissuade them. I'm always saying, no, what you need is not the word expert. You will become the word expert on your topic. So here you're not coming to learn new lessons, to learn as you did in a master's, but you're here to gain research experience and you're here to become the expert of your own topic. And ideally, your supervisor should learn from you and should learn from this interaction with you. Students often, most of the time, do not quite understand this or not too well. Fair enough. Hard to convince them that no, the word expert will not be there. And I can witness to this. Before I started my own PhD, I was working as a financial analyst in an independent bureau, and I was considering doing a PhD in finance, and I had a topic which was on the prevention of failure, of bankruptcy, and there was one person in the world whose work was very close to what I wanted to do. I did not contact the person directly, but I asked mentors, I asked people I knew if they know him, and one with whom I was working, so he was an emeritus professor. He was semi-retired as a professor. He was the founder and partner in this financial analyst bureau, and he did his PhD at Berkeley, and knew nearly everybody on the West Coast in America. And he knew this guy who was a friend of his. They did their PhD together. And I asked him, so do you think I could contact him? And do you think he would agree? And he said to me, oh, you can always contact him. I can contact him for you if you want, but I know the answer. I was quite optimistic at the time, enthusiastic, and said, no, I know the answer. The answer will be no. I do not need an extra PhD student. I've got mine already. And if he wants to do a PhD with me, he should first come to do my master's. So his master's with me, so I know him from before, and then I can see how good he is and decide. And there's no guarantee. It was a bit of a disappointment, but it was an inconvenient truth, but a good one. I needed it. So later on, for my own PhD, the one I've actually done, had nothing to do with this. It is something that was really interesting to me, and it was on how you are accountable to God in a church setting. So when you're accountable to God, of what should you give an account, especially as God supposedly already knows even before you think about doing something. And in this context, how can a church, a denomination, be organized and structured, and what is the role of the different parties involved? So this is what I really, really wanted to do. And not the thing on bankruptcy, which was more opportunistic. So what I did is that I browsed in France in the first place. I browsed universities' websites, and I browsed the profile of every single professor so as to check what their research interests are, also how many PhD students they have at the moment, what their past and current publications are, and I drew a list. I had, and on my list I had 4 names. 4 names ticking all the boxes, the right people. Then what did I do? I emailed them, briefly introducing myself and saying, I'm contacting you because I understand you're working on this, working on that, blah, blah, blah. Here is who I am, and I would like to do a PhD on this topic. Would you agree to have a chat with me and to advise me on what I can do from there? The 4 of them responded, yes, please, with great pleasure. One was much quicker than the other 3. He responded within 2 hours, giving me his phone number, saying, call me. The other 3 responded within 24 hours. And one was available a week later. Another one was not available. Said to me, I'm sorry, I would have with great pleasure, but you're coming too late. And the third one, the other person was available, but not as fast as the first one. And I said to them, I've just spoken with such and such, and he agrees. And they all said, he's great, he will be the best fit for you. So this is how it works in the very first place. When you approach someone, you need to really approach the right person. What I too often see is also students who are more interested in an institution and its alleged prestige or reputation than the people actually working there. And like I said, for myself, I contacted people because they were those people and not because of where they were working. And interestingly, the one who was my main supervisor in France, the one who responded within 2 hours, was moving from a regional university to Paris Dauphine University. Now he is the vice president of this university, so he was moving there, which I did not know when I first contacted him. So I had great luck, the best possible luck, as I was more than allowed. I was invited to enroll at Dauphine and not at this regional university, although I was considering enrolling in this regional university to work with them. So I had all at once, with unexpected side effects, positive side effects. So if you contact the right person, the best possible things might well happen. Next, still with the email, when you address someone with an email, what I often see is that the content is very long. Very often you tend to speak very much about yourself, and not everything is necessarily pertinent at this particular stage. Very often students tend to have a very unclear idea. So either a very unclear idea of what they want to do and something very vague, so you cannot really figure out what to say, or conversely, they want to work on something so specific that you are speechless, not being very clear as to what could be said about this, what is interesting for other people with this. So this means that when you address someone in an email to ask them to supervise your work for your master's thesis or a doctoral dissertation, you need to give them some food for thought and a good reason to answer, to write back by not saying I want to work on this and be very specific, or say I'm not sure on what I want to work, but you might be a good fit. So something in between. I'm interested in that area, in that type of research, and here is why I'm contacting you. This is okay. And here are things that are problematic, and I've seen this a few times. A student contacting me and asking me if I could supervise him or her, and the topic was all but clear. It was 3 lines. In the email, I read the 3 lines a couple of times and then was not sure what the topic exactly was. And I'm still not too clear. It was about something, then yes, and this is fed with this, things coming from so many different areas that at the end of the day, I was totally lost. When you're lost, you do not want, and when you receive such an email 10 times, remember, you do not want to make an effort to try to understand. So if it is not clear at all, then that's done. Conversely, I had someone come in with a very specific topic. I want to work on this particular thing in this particular company over that particular period of time. I'm not sure it will be wide enough to be appealing to a broad audience. And I do not have the impression that student really wants to write something that would be interesting for other people, but mainly something interesting for themselves. So in this case, you're not really responsive. You're not appealed to that. So what you say as a sort of topic or idea is very important. And interestingly, when master's students contact me for their master's thesis, they are much smarter on this than prospective PhD students. I've noticed that master's students, for their master's thesis, when they contact me having some ideas of what I'm doing. Not totally clear, but they have some ideas. They understood what my general interests are. And they say, well, I'm contacting you because I understood that you like unusual stuff. Based on your records, based on what we know about you, I understood that you like unusual topics. My topic here is, I think, relatively unusual, and I hope it might be of interest to you. Okay, so when you just read this in the first place, when I do, then I think, okay, tell me more, and I continue reading. And I had a student who said, okay, I want to work on the legacy of Olympic equipments after the Olympics. So once you have stadiums, buildings, residences, etc. that are built, what is left afterwards? And she was right. I loved it. I really loved it. I said, okay, let's go for it. It was when the Paris Olympics were being prepared. The question of what the equipments and what the facilities would become in the future started being raised, and the student wanted to investigate the legacy of previous Olympics facilities, and so as to see what could happen with the Paris Olympics facilities and installations. I loved it. I had another master student contacting me again for the Paris 2024 Olympics, so as to see how, so as to be supervised on a topic addressing how Olympics, or how a large sport event, an international sport event such as the Olympics, can be a lever of population mobilization. How can a country be mobilized around the organization of such an international sports events? And I, again, really loved it. So I said, go for it. Another one, and I remember her. Her name is the same as my wife's forename. So she was called Rachel. And she, so Rachel contacted me. It was more than 15 years ago. She wanted to do something on the performance of a professional hockey club. I'm not into sports as such. I know nothing about hockey, but when I saw something on performance, I understood that she was interested in how sports performance and financial performance intertwine or intersect, how they are mutually influential or mutually supportive. And I really loved this idea of bringing sport performance, so something different, into the business model and into more traditional performance or management perceptions or whatsoever. So I said, yes, let's go for it. Another one, I remember another one who was the NATO's CFO, so the North Atlantic Treaty Organization CFO, so Chief Financial Officer, was doing a master's thesis on militaries and financial literacy. And I really loved it again. So he wanted to see how, so to what extent officers and senior commanders in the army can understand financial constraints, financial issues, and matters. I really loved it. So I said, yes, go for it. And all those were master students with a clearer idea of who I am and what I'm doing than doctoral students or prospective doctoral students. That's unexpected, but interesting. So then I continue with this email the student is sending. In the email, at times students send a bibliography, a reference list. Well, to be honest, I do not really, and when I say I, it's also my colleagues, we do not really open attachments. When you receive such an email, if the email is not really appealing, it's not really convincing, you are unlikely to make the effort of opening the attachment, reading it, understanding it, and then sending a response. So the bibliography is unnecessary at this stage. And it is even more unnecessary that actually most of the time the bibliography is quite naive. And when I say naive, I mean references that are not necessarily academic references, or if these are academic references, not necessarily, I would not say relevant, but yeah, they're not irrelevant, but not the most convincing references. This means that often the bibliography is not really organized. It is unstructured or unrecent. So you see a number of references that have very little in common, and just by reading the bibliography, you cannot really figure out what the thesis is about, but where the students want to fit, what they want to speak about for true, and where they want to go. So this is often when there is sort of a randomized or quasi-randomized picking of references. So, you pick references from here, from there, but at the end of the day, it's not very consistent, not very coherent. And I've seen this too many times. And when you see this, especially if the bibliography is lengthy, it is not a very good sign. It's from the student's perspective, this should reassure the potential supervisor and should show that you are serious, you've started thinking about it, you have started reading. But when you're a researcher and receive this, the opposite happens. You think, oh my gosh, a student who is already not advanced, but already set in certain ways, I have no idea how easy it will be to suggest that they should do things perhaps differently, or that they should read different stuff. So attaching a bibliography is not necessarily a good idea. Or if you do, in your bibliography there should be a few readings of yours coming from the person's publications, the person you are contacting. And in this case, indeed, you show that you have read their work, but that their work may be useful to you because of this or because of that. Otherwise, not necessary. With bibliography, what is also problematic when you submit a proposal, not even a proposal, when you submit an invitation for supervising you, it's that the bibliography is often not scientific. Too often we see books, which is not a problem itself, but books which are not necessarily research books. At times you see books that are more textbooks or handbooks, or let's say essay books written by a researcher, but which are more for the general public. You might see works in progress. A work in progress is not necessarily anything bad, but a work in progress is something that has not been assessed by anybody yet, and something about which we do not know yet if it is of good quality or not. So things that you might find on Google Scholar or just browsing the internet. So again, something unstructured, unreasoned. This is a big weakness, and this is a counterintuitive one, I think, for students who think that it looks more serious having one, but no, it does not necessarily. So if you do not have a clear, convincing bibliography, do not worry. The text of your email should be enough. If you have a real bibliography, it is an indicative one that could show the direction you would consider taking. For my own PhD, I mean the real one, not the one about bankruptcy. For the real one, when I contacted the people, I did not send any attachment. I did not send any bibliography. I said, well, I have written a few pages drafting thoughts. If you think we can talk or we can work together, then I'm happy to share this with you. Which is not, and I start with the not, which is not a way of protecting my own thought. No. I know that a number of people would not share their ideas with someone they do not know, and because they would not like them to be stolen. For me, it was not this reason. It was the opposite reason. I wanted to leave room for a potential conversation. If the person is intrigued or is interested, then they are bound to say, oh, yes, please. If they're not interested, they will not ask for anything. But if they're not interested, they will not read what I send. So I do not need to send it in the first place. I keep it for a second round of exchanges. And when there's a second round of exchanges, then there's a good hook. It is a good start. So the bibliography is, like I said, sort of a double-edged sword. So I would not recommend going for it. I remember that I also saw a different way of approaching potential supervisors. I remember one in particular, which I think is sort of weird, sort of weird. It was I was at a conference, at a congress, and there were a few students, prospective doctoral students, who were attending the conference, and they said to me, "Oh, I'm here to find a supervisor." So they thought that they would bump into someone. So they knew whom they wanted. So they wanted some big names or whatsoever, and they believed that by attending the big names session and then going to talk to them after the session, they would have the Holy Grail and the person saying, "Oh yes, of course." I was quite skeptical, and I do not think, honestly, it is the best way of doing. If you think that attending a conference, a seminar, or whatsoever event where someone you would like to have a supervisor is a good idea, then there are some tips and hints that you should know. Bear in mind that a big name does not need you. A big name is already highly solicited, demanded, and has the luxury of being selective. So, it does not necessarily mean that it's hopeless, but it means that you must have a good strategy. And this good strategy can consist, but the output is uncertain, can consist of reading, before you go, reading the person's paper presented in that session and ask the smartest possible question on this paper or make the smartest possible comment on the paper. So you do not just say, oh, thank you very much for this wonderful paper, blah, 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 rubbish. I mean, when I say rubbish, we hear it so much, so often that we no longer care about it. It makes me smile each time I hear it. No, but a smart comment, which is, okay, here you're saying this, but how have you controlled for that, or how have you negotiated this particular issue in your study, or something that shows a real interest of yours in their research, but also capability of understanding their research and their research within a broader environment. When you do this, and ideally it should be the first question. If you're shy, don't even think that you will find a supervisor at a conference. But if you're not shy and if you dare to ask a question, preferably the first question, you can be certain that after the session, the person, the presenter, will get back to you for a little talk and will give you their card, their business card, and say, okay, we should catch up. Here is my email. Drop me an email and we'll talk. 99% of the cases, it does work. So if you go to a conference, much more than with an email, you must be highly prepared. You must know what this person is about to talk. You must have read their work, and you must show it and show that you would be a valuable spokespartner. Something else that works, and I've been confronted with this. Something else that works is when someone contacts you someday and reminds you of an encounter, in an academic environment, preferably. This has happened to me. When about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I received an email from someone saying, "Oh, I'm such and such. We met 10 years before. 10 years before in Lille, you were giving a talk. It was wonderful. This has marked me. Blah blah blah. Can we talk about this? Can we talk about this?" I said, "For sure." I could not remember this talk at all. So I really have no idea what happened at that time in Lille, so in the north of France, and what I was speaking about. But apparently this had impressed this person who contacted me 10 years on. And then we spoke, and he explained to me where he's at. I said, okay, I'm considering engaging in a doctorate. I'm in my 50s, and so midlife. And so for my midlife or second life, I would like to think about my own practices and do a doctorate. Would you agree to supervise me? For now, I'm not sure on what exactly I want to work, but I should have some ideas. So when I was doing my master's, I did this, I did that, and I would like to build on this in a way or another. And with this, you are highly impressed, and you want to say, yeah, of course, with great pleasure. And the person has not enrolled yet, but we're in touch. So this means you can then contact someone who already knows you, or someone who you have already known, or someone to whom you are recommended by someone else, and you need to show a special connection so that the person here thinks, oh yes, okay, let's talk. It does not commit anybody, but let's talk. Let's try. We'll see what happens. This is for those main ways of approaching a potential supervisor. Then, like I said, the articulating of the topic is also something very important in the email you send to the person you would like to have a supervisor. And here a few words on the articulating of a topic and research question. Honestly, I think I've seen a few let's say misunderstandings or wrong directions taken prematurely by a number of students, particularly doctoral students or prospective doctoral students more than master's students. Something great with master's students is that they do their thesis on something that really matters to them at that time. Doctoral students are more strategic, more looking long term, or academic professional positioning, trying to see what they should investigate and what is not bound to be a very relevant topic or whatsoever. So they're very often much less spontaneous in what they want to do and much less committed to it. That's very paradoxical, but I've noticed really in the past 20 years that master's students really do something of interest to them at that time. Some think, okay, I want this to be my next expertise, so I will do something very specific or very professional or whatever. Some others say, this is my last chance of doing something broadening my thoughts. I will do something much more intellectual. Some others said, this is the last chance I have to do something I really choose, so I do something I really like. And everything I said about the Olympics, for instance, is this. And students interested in the Olympics, it was this. I had another student a master's student who wrote on gender stereotypes and how women contribute to those gender stereotypes at times. For instance, by laughing at sexist jokes or by not reacting to sexist jokes. Just an example. So she was highly committed to this. She did not want this to be her professional expertise, or she was not even considering a PhD about this later on, but she had at that time a very personal interest in sexism and the role of women in the spread of and fight against sexist behaviors. So, and she did a great master's thesis. So, what is important with the topic itself when you approach someone is that the topic should have, let's say, a triple interest. Whatever your discipline is, be it in humanities, in management, in law, in science, in medicine, wherever. Your topic must have a triple interest first, and I'll get back to it, and must be easily articulated, simply articulated, easy to remember, easy to express, and easy to understand. So said like this, it seems to be very simple, but simplicity is generally very difficult to achieve. So the triple interest, let's start with this. The triple interest is interest for you. It must be something that is of interest to you. And here I strongly insist, because I too often see prospective students who want to know what a hot topic would be. What is the best topic on which I can work? I want to do something that will be influential. I want to do something which is really, really aligned with today's concerns. I want to do something which is, nowadays, let's say AI. Okay, but why? I've just told you, because it's a hot topic. Yes, but what is the interest to you? Well, the interest for me is that it is a hot topic. No, it's not your interest, sorry. So you may hear at times that there are some hot topics and some other topics that are not interesting or not relevant. I would say rubbish. There are some topics that are especially timely. That's true. But a topic which is timely today may be dated tomorrow. And conversely, a topic which is not timely yet may be timely tomorrow. And also an old topic which may sound dated or something may be a newly or a refreshed interesting topic soon. We do not know, we cannot predict. So if you want to work on something which is hot topic for today, then you're bound to either struggle because you do something which is not exactly what you want to do, or you might end up writing something which is commonplace, or something which soon will no longer be timely. So you would be a sort of a fashion victim, an academic fashion victim, which is not good, actually. So I remember years ago I had students who wanted to work on the metaverse. Oh, this is the future. So it was, if you remember, at the time where Mark Zuckerberg, the Meta, was announcing the launch of the metaverse and was explaining how the metaverse would revolutionize the world, how avatars would replace everything and change our life experience, study experience or work experience or whatsoever. Where is the metaverse 10 years on? Forgotten, I suppose. So I was suggesting students not working on the metaverse for that reason. Some others were interested, saying, well, I want to understand what this thing is. So this metaverse thing seems to be a new technology or whatsoever, just like the NFTs, a new non-fungible tokens, or like big data at the time. But I'm really not sure what it is, and I would like to understand what this technology is about and how it positions itself vis-a-vis others. And I thought, okay, good one. You've got a good one here. Try it. You can. I mean, there's something indeed. And not because it is a hot topic, but because the student had a genuine interest in it. So a good topic is really a topic that matters to you and about which you can talk. And nearly any topic has its currency and has its timeliness. Any topic. Of course, if you want to work on if you want to work on something which is currently happening on the news, of course it will be especially fashionable today, if it is what you really want to do, with still the same guarantee or absence of guarantee that it will be the case tomorrow. But likewise, there will be pleasant surprises with any topic. There will always be people interested in any type of topic nowadays. So what a hot topic is should not bother you at all. For instance, I have that's a very good case, and I think some of you know the person about whom I'm going to talk. I have a student, a doctoral student, working on female co-leaders, and because she sees herself in this topic, it is something that really matters to her as a woman, as a business leader, as an entrepreneur in all senses, not just a business entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur of her life, an entrepreneur at many things. And she tried to talk to a number of people supposedly involved in the defense of female co-leaders, and she realized that they're not interested. So she asked me, do you really think it is an interesting topic? They said, it's not a hot topic, it's not a hot topic. I said, well, is it interesting for you? She said, of course it is. I said to her, yeah, then it is a hot topic. And then I said to her, maybe you're not talking to the right people. So instead of talking to those people who are old men, old-fashioned men, not used to delegating, and of course who think that women at best should be secretaries or whatsoever, instead of talking to those people, you should probably try to talk to some ladies who are in such high places and who have gained those roles and could talk to you. And this is how she met with a number of political leaders, former ministers, MPs, with also some very eloquent or emblematic female business leaders. And then she thought, it's incredible. When I started the discussion, they really liked it. They said, that's great. I said, yeah, you thought it may be irrelevant, but no, it is irrelevant to those other people, but it's relevant to those ones. So you need to talk to the right people. And your topic, which is a cold topic for those mainstream men, suddenly is a hot topic for those ladies and other people who care. So is there objectively a hot topic? No. A hot topic is a topic of interest to you in the very first place. Then the second interest your topic must have is an interest for, let's say, for society of practitioners. This means if you talk about your research to non-academics, to whom would you like to appeal? And how would you like them to understand your work and them to be, let's say, engaged? This means you must be clear with the population with whom you want to talk. Imagine you are to talk about your topic more or less as an expert in public spheres. You go on TV or something. So the question is, what type of shows and for what types of questions, and whom would you like to convince or engage? That's the thing. Not easy, but important. This means you see how your interest can be shared with others. And the third interest is the most difficult to identify when you start, or of course a fortiori when you're not started yet. It is interest for research. My topic has an interest for me, has an interest for society or certain practitioners, but it's also interesting for research. This means you must have done some readings, and this you might think that this contradicts what I said before about the bibliography, but not quite. Not quite. I said before you do not need, or you should probably not provide a bibliography when you first email someone, but this does not mean that you should not read. This does not mean that you should not have some ideas or intuitions as to what has been written in research on the topic. So when you contact people, if you're not clear just yet with this third interest, it does not matter too much. Paradoxically, I'm saying paradoxically because, like I said, too often we receive emails from students who think that they need to provide you with a bibliography to convince you that they are serious and legitimate. But most of the time they're off topic. So when they're not certain, when they do not know yet, but want to learn, want to know, then this is a very good sign. So the hot topic is this topic for which you want to see how it can appeal to an academic audience. And it does not matter if you're not clear with this in the first place. We must see stars in your eyes when you speak about it. When you write, we must read enthusiasm at your end. For instance, I have a student, a master student at the moment. She's working on camp aesthetics in digital marketing. So camp aesthetics, just in a nutshell, it is the queer culture and the queer aesthetics, and which is sort of inherited from American counterculture in the 70s, or English punk culture. But here, this plus the queer dimension. So something very specific, coming initially, let's say, from the 70s, and that has grown more recently. And now a number of high-end fashion and luxury brands engage with camp aesthetics in their ads. So just to look more glamour or something. And her interest is in so my student's interest, personal interest, is how do queers react to this. So in the first place, that their counterculture then becomes sort of mainstream. So how do they live with that? Interesting, I think. And I mean, interesting question. I had not thought about it before. I think, yes, maybe. And she also said, but also, how do mainstream consumers perceive this counterculture used by mainstream brands? There is a hiatus somewhere. Is it fixable, or is it just a mistake? So this was her question. So there's a paradox that bothers me, and I want to understand this paradox. And then, as to who would be interested, I said, well, I see higher end luxury consumers and members of the queer community potentially interested in understanding this? I said, okay, let's go for it. What about research? He said, well, for research, I'm not sure just yet, but I think possibly marketing research, digital management research, and perhaps research on luxury. And she said, but having said this, I'm not exactly sure where and how. I thought, it does not matter. This does not bother me. We'll see. We'll find it out. And I said, yes, I'm more than happy to supervise you on this because it is something unusual. So when I'm saying this, you might be right, saying that I'm contradicting myself. As about an hour ago, I said that I'm illiterate at marketing, and when I receive emails from potential PhD students saying, oh, I want you to supervise me in marketing because you are experienced at this, I think, no, I'm not at all. And here I said, oh, I'm more than happy to supervise this master's thesis in marketing. But what's of interest to me is not marketing, is the queer culture, campus aesthetics. Again, something unusual, something non-conventional. This is what is of interest to me here. And then I said triple interest, but also when you write or when you speak about it, it must be articulated simply. A simple, short, concise sentence so that it is easy to digest. I'm saying this because very often, I'm confronted with two situations. Different with master's students and with doctoral candidates. With master's students, very often the topic is not clear, which is not a problem in itself. The topic is not very clear, but they feel obliged to give a lot of contextual features. Nowadays this is happening, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's too much fluff for me. I call it fluff because it's not the topic itself, it's something that revolves around it more or less, but which is also highly polluting the discussion. And at the end of the day, I do not really know what I want to do. So a lot of contextual features, plus big words, judgmental words, where two different people would have two different understandings. Such big words like could be better something, improved something, the quality of blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, I do not know what I mean. Really. So, so I had something on, which was on the impact of the optimization of processes on the improvement of the quality of something else. I can't remember, just to say. Optimization. I have no idea what optimization means exactly. If you consider mathematics, in mathematics, optimization means something when you have a function and you want to reach the maximum of this function under a number of constraints. That's the sole type of optimization I intellectually understand. Otherwise, I have no idea what people mean. And I doubt they were meaning this. Optimization of processes, so the impact of this on the improvement of the quality of something else. Improvement. What does it mean, improvement? Okay, better. It's something which is better. Okay, but what does it mean, better? Well, something which is good, but more. Yes, but what is good? Good is when it's okay, when it means a certain number of criteria. Okay, I understand. But not clear in the first place. And improvement, quality, and likewise quality. What does it mean, quality? What does jolly quality mean? Quality means this, blah, 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 and something which always leaves me very perplexed is when there are people dealing with audit quality. And for them, it is commonly agreed that audit quality can be assessed through audit fees. The higher audit fees are, the higher audit quality is. So just to say how weird it is when you see such big words. And so this is something, like I said, I see more with master students, something which is either too contextual or using too many big words. Not very helpful. So my tip is that you should make it simple. Instead of using those big words, replace them with the meaning you give to them. What do you mean when you use a certain word? Use the synonym instead and make sure that you're using a word that can be understood in the same terms by someone else. And amongst doctoral students, what I often see is not exactly the opposite, but something different, which is a situation where they come with either a very jargonant topic, so not using big words, but even bigger words, words that commoners would not understand. And I fell in this trap at some point, so I can witness to that. I had at some point something, and I can't remember too well. It was on sorry, just to say how easy it was. I think it was to what extent does the 𝗵𝗵𝗿 dimension of accountability convoke an anaphoric approach to dialogical accountability, or something like this. Did you understand anything? Probably not. Cataphoric, anaphoric, dialogic, I can bet you did not understand. Nowadays, I can't understand either. At that time, I thought it was serious, it was scientific, because it was a bit jargonant. And people politely smiled at me. I now understand why. So avoid jargon. And the second thing you need to avoid is also to have something which is too lengthy. Too often I see with prospective doctoral students that they want to have a topic which covers too much. So the topic is not one sentence, not a group of words, it is one paragraph or 2 or 3 sentences, often that have little in common, and that they think, oh yes, but it's important because this may imply this, may involve this, blah, blah, blah. I said, yes, but that's not really how it works. That's not really how it goes. So we're not quite there. That's something. Your topic, whatever you do, master's or doctorate, should be something simple. And here I'm giving you another tip I gave last week on something different, which was on the oral defense, on your 𝗲𝗏, which is that ideally you should be able to consider your topic metaphorically like a tweet. 140 characters with a hook, with a clear message, and the relevant hashtags operating as keywords or main terms or concepts. Full stop. Nothing more. so that we then have material for comments. Then we comment on this basis and we discuss on this basis. But if you're not able to arrive at something short, concise and clear, it would be very hard to engage a potential supervisor or to convince that what he wants to do is indeed interesting, is indeed a hot topic. Your topic will be cold if it is not understandable, if it's not intelligible. That's for me something really, really key to this to this feed. Well, I've spoken too much like previous times, but this is because I see no questions in the chat, unfortunately. So to my biggest frustration, this is just a monologue without questions, without comments, without interjections, disagreements in the chat. But I still have hope that it will happen, that session or live after live, there will be a community and people interjecting, people asking questions or even contesting what I'm saying. So I'd love to be contested, to be challenged. So yeah, this is basically it's what I thought would be useful to share with you for tonight. So, of course, there are many other things relating to the way you can approach a potential supervisor, or the way you can convince someone of your topic's interest, or how you could devise a topic, a working topic. But yeah, I think I've covered what I think is the most important. And just to wrap this up, when you address someone in an email to ask them for supervision or co-supervision or whatsoever, you must really spot the right person, or show them that you're contacting them for good reasons, and those good reasons are that you know of their works, you know of their academic interest, and you show it, and not in generic terms. You show it, and you briefly introduce yourself, you briefly explain on what you would like to work and how and why you think they could be a good fit, how you think their research interests align with yours, and how both can really intersect. That's the important thing. And for this, you must have a relatively clear way of exposing your research ideas. So your tentative topic. I insist on the fact that it's tentative, and I will speak about this in a subsequent live session, that the topic is not rigid and set forever. It will evolve over time, but at least you start with something. And this something must be, that's the very important thing, must be of interest to you in the very first place. And if it is not interesting for you in the very first place, you will never be able to convince a potential supervisor. The hot topic is hot, or the topic, is hot because it is hot for you. And as it is hot for you, you can engage. You can have people really following you. So you're welcome, Rachel. You're welcome, Brian. I really hope it helps. I really hope that I might have answered a number of questions you could have been asking yourselves, or not necessarily raised yet, but happy if it can help. And I see that we have 5 people now. I saw that there were a few people coming in and coming out, and now we're at 5. If the other ones who have joined have anything to ask or any comments or whatsoever, we can still do it. It's when I schedule between 8:30 and 10. Hi, Monique. Thank you. So 10 is an indicative time, so it's otherwise open-ended. There is no closing at 10 sharp. And I would like to iterate something I said at the very beginning. When you joined the platform, when you joined Twitch, you might have seen on the left-hand side a number of things saying 𝗁 event. So like I explained at the beginning, the event is probably the biggest charity fundraising in France, organized by this community, by streamers mainly. It is aiming at raising this year, like the previous years, 10 million euros for caregivers, not for nurses, but for helpers, family helpers. And it is all weekend. So it started last night at 6 p.m. Paris time, and it's finishing tomorrow. And there are many contests. There are online things, but also on-site in Amsterdam this year. So it's moving each year, but it's organized by French streamers in the first place. It should be possible, if you want, to make a donation for this charity. Not through my channel. I'm not experienced enough. But if you browse other channels, or if you browse the event itself, which is on the cover page, you might see how you can contribute if you feel up to it. So unless there are any reactions, be they on what we discussed or on anything else, please feel free to write in the chat. I'm more than happy to respond. This is how it supposedly goes on Twitch. Supposedly it is based on interactions, and it is not a lecture, or it's not a webinar in itself. So if anything, please feel free to interact. If for whatever reason you do not feel interacting, then I thank you for joining, for coming in and out and back in, for all those who were there. Hi, Lazaro. Thank you. Happy to see you. And I then wish you a lovely evening or a lovely day, depending on where you are. And next week I will be here at the same time, same place, same time. The theme will be communicated shortly. On Tuesday I will communicate the theme, which will certainly be an extension of what I started discussing today, but it may be slightly different from my current idea. So again, thank you. So I see that someone new has just joined. Thanks for joining. Unless, like I said, there are interjections or whatsoever, I wish you a lovely evening or a lovely day and a lovely week. And happy to see you next week here at the same time.